Hello, Kalla here, and welcome to the third part of my Planet Coaster building series. So last time I finished off by building this very small moat outside of the castle in my central area. And so the next thing I want to do is build the paths out over it to make my little, not exactly a drawbridge, but something along those lines. And like the snapping on the paths is a little weird given the sizing that I've made them. So this was a bit of a learning curve about how paths work, and I'm just going to have to deal with the little wiggle, I think. So that I can just build a little bridge. Just to go up and over my moat. I want to connect this up, but as I said last time, I believe I slightly messed up lining those up, so I'm just gonna fix that first and just move over the entire thing for this little internal area so that I can make it line up nicely. Which, you know, unfortunately takes a fair bit of work. Because I've not only got to do that, I've got to move the staircase as well. Well, sorry, I say staircase, but I do still really want it to be a slope rather than a staircase. First I need some lights on the subject, so that I can actually see what I'm doing in here, because that's the main problem with the fact that I've built a cave, is that I can't see what I'm doing in this half the time. Once again, the weird snapping issues I've caused myself by completely flooring the inside of the cave. In the dark, where I can't see what's going on. And then I managed to accidentally move the entire building. And didn't realise it immediately. There we go, now it's a nice neat ramp coming down. And I'll figure out what I'm doing with the rest of the floor later. But here's the building I accidentally moved out of the entire thing. That I've now got to try and get back into place. Or do I even need it anymore? And I still want it for that entrance there, and it still might be useful to have things attaching to it on the inside. I'm still really not quite sure how to build that. But it's more or less back in position now. Yeah, that looks so much better now it's actually lined up. Once again, experimenting a little bit with the textures for this. And for under the ruins coaster, which I think I still need a better name for it than ruins coaster, and I'm willing to take suggestions. It might be better, although it might be better to wait until I've themed it up and everything. I'm also still trying to get used to the camera movements in this game. As you probably saw there. All of this pathing to block out the areas doesn't really need to be here anymore because I think it's fairly obvious where the areas are. Now I've got the central area mapped out. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all of those before they start causing more problems with my landscaping. And because we're sort of building actual paths in a sec with the little bridges coming out of the castle and over the moat, so it's probably best if the unintentional paths disappear. Now we had a slight snag in that I didn't make sure that the paths in the castle were centered either. Therefore it doesn't actually line up with the entrance. Although I think that path is a little bit bent. But oh well. I'm gonna try and fix the mess that the path's made of my terrain a little bit. And since the pirate area really needs a beach, I need to change that there and do a bit of work on the water area. By which I found the edge of the editable area of the park. Which looks awfully square, and I'm gonna have to do something about that later. But I do want this little sea area to be a bit bigger than it already is. Just for the sake of how it looks. But also I don't necessarily want sheer cliffs. I mean, I guess you could get away with that in some ways, but I don't know. The terrain tool is still a bit of a learning experience. But I know I don't want everything to be completely flat. So I'm just having a bit of a mess around with it. I want a sort of foresty area over to the west. And I don't think that should be completely flat. Now the only area I've still got the borders marked out with at the moment is this eastern area. And I have a plan for this. So what I really want in this area is to build an area kind of themed to Venice. So like little waterways and things like that. So first, because I learned how the terrain reacts around the pathing, I'm just going to build out some plazas using pathing. Sort of figure out where I want things. See, it doesn't quite work out because the terrain area ends up going like underneath the platforms there. And I want to try putting a boat ride. Except finding somewhere that it actually wants to sit is a little difficult. But there we go. It's now in position, and it'll go in position there and line up with the plaza, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send the boats. The idea is to send the boats just around the canal areas, which I haven't completely mapped out at the moment. Just a fun little boat ride. Aside from the fact that it's a little too high out of the water out of where the water will go, it'll look like an actual boat ride. So I'm gonna have to figure that out somehow. In the meantime, I'll continue laying out these plaza areas. That one's got rails because I used the terrain tool a bit over there. I'm gonna have to completely flatten this out again so that the pathing that I'm putting in that might not remain or anything isn't going to end up having those. So I want like some narrower little pathways. Obviously the boat's not going to be going down the narrow ones, but I feel it feels more authentic to have these little narrow bits. I don't know. Venice is somewhere I kind of want to go one of these days. Just because I think it's quite pretty. I mean, mostly my obsession with Venice kind of comes from a series of books I read when I was younger, called Stravaganza, which is based in basically an alternate version of Italy. So I guess if I'm honest, it isn't actually that I want to visit Venice, it's that I want to visit Bellezza, but that's not exactly something that can happen. But anyway, back to mapping out my little canals. And basically trying to make sure the water's going to fill them properly. Because, as we've learned with the other water things so far, it doesn't always want to go where I want it to go. And there's a bit of a weirdness around the edges of these with how the terrain tool acts with them. So there's a bit of kind of some weird blockiness. What I'm going to do is I'm going to join the Pirate Sea up with the edge of my mini Venice. Which caused the water to mess up a little bit, because I now had two different levels of water trying to go into one another. So, I guess the canals are going to need to be a little bit deeper. I really want to get the edges more lined up and less sort of caved in on the inside, but I don't think that's going to happen. The temporary pathing around the pirate ship is going to have to go for a bit while I figure out what's going on. But that's fine. Mostly because in order to make the water come up as high as I'd like, I needed to flood that island. So the pirate ship has got to go away for a while. And now ideally, I want to sink this boat thing a little deeper, but I can't do that because of the terrain under it. So I'm just gonna have to temporarily move it out of the way so that I can fix that. Because if I try to edit the terrain while it's there, it does something a bit weird there. Just finding somewhere it'll happily sit for a bit. And then let's bring it back in again. Except that it didn't want to sit after that, so So what I've got to do is I've got to make that a little bit, I'm going to take a bit away from the plazas so that it'll fit in this space. And I can drop it down to actual water level. And then I'm going to have to work out the entry and exits onto it at a later point. I guess with a little bridge, or because this isn't going to quite work. Neatening up the edges didn't really work all that well either. As much as I love it. So I'll just sort of deal with it the best I can. I feel like there's going to be a lot of cleanup to do later that I'm leaving to later me. But oh well. Mini Venice has been connected to the sea. And now I can send the boats out into a little bit of a bay. Maybe a little bit of a pleasure cruise around the bay. And over towards the pirate area that I need to actually remake. So here comes the pirate ship again. Which I still wish I could get closer to the water without things being weird. Speaking of that, we've got to make this little island look a bit less like a perfect oval that I just raised out of the seabed. So it's time to learn about the terrain tool again. I thought a little bit of a cave might be an interesting visual point, except it's not really a very interesting visual point when it's on the opposite side of anywhere that anyone's going to see. So, did a little bit of one in that side as well. Now back to the boat. Because it needs to have a second dock, because it's a transport ride and not a ride. I figured what I would do would be I'd put one over by the pirate ship. And then from there I can just pull the ship back around and send it back into the Venetian Canal again. Except getting things lined up to complete the circuit was not easy. Because apparently it needs a wider turn than I had. But we sort of managed to get it to fit together. Now we've got to bring the pirate ship island out a bit so that it'll actually meet up with the other station. Which is probably going to require a lot of work to make it look right. I need to work out the queue lines and exit lines for both of those stations at some point, but that's not right now. Right now I'm going to try and figure out how to fix the problem I made where these don't match up quite right. And I guess that's one way to do it. It's got a little bit of a wiggle in it, but it's not quite as obvious now that I've made the path wider. What the entryway really needs is a big, fancy arch or something. Just to really tie things in. So I sort of had a look at the various archway types. Sort of just want something fairly fancy. Ideally something that'll conceal the rest of the park from people who are just arriving so that they can come through it and then they get a view. That would be ideal. And yeah. Having thought about that, I considered that perhaps the archways into the castle over here could do with being more tunnely. Wider rather than just the very narrow ones that they have at the moment. Like, it would be nice if the castle walls had some kind of a thickness to them. honestly, I think it looks a lot better that way. Since at the moment we've just got these parapets that they just sort of, if there was a way for you to get up there, you would just fall off because there isn't anything keeping you on that side. So I've got to match it up with the other side. This one didn't want to snap quite right in the corner. And, you know, I think that makes it look a lot better. Now that I have that, what I really want is to make a way for guests to get up onto there. This time I am going to use stairs, because they feel more in keeping with the Kalla sub, and it's just to have a look around. And it's like, I could just run this path the whole way along. What we don't want is a railing when it's actually on the wall, because that's just a bit, doesn't look quite right because you've already got the edging too. And I would prefer it if that little bit of railing off of the steps didn't actually stick through, but that's all I can really do with it, so just going to have to deal. But regardless, I'm just going to run this path the whole way along. Let's make something of a little viewing platform for guests so they can just go up there and get a view of the other areas of the park. And then I can hide all these supports by finishing up the thickening out the walls like that. How did that really? But there's still 3 sides of this to do, and that's gonna take a little bit. I also need to finish the edges here. Not really a whole lot extra to say about this while you watch me build it, really. Other than this takes a while. A lot of things in this game take a while. And that's why the videos that you get to see are sped up. Because it wouldn't really be all that entertaining to watch me do this in real time. It wasn't all that entertaining to do this in real time as it was. And admittedly, I probably could have copy and pasted the other sides, but as we've learned, I'm kind of bad at selecting the bits that I need without accidentally selecting other things. So it's just a little bit easier for me to build it by hand, especially because the copy-pasted ones I had even more difficulty with the snapping than I'm already having with these at the corners. That's the third one in. So there's actually only one last wall to finish up. I mean, in terms of this part. It's a bit of a weirdness at the inner corners there, but we already have that weirdness on the outer corners as well, so que sera sera. Castle wall's looking a lot better now, it's got some substance to it. What I really want is to hide as much of these steps as possible, make them as close as I can to fitting in, so we're going to use these triangular pieces. Ideally, I'd like to hide the railings, but I can't really figure out a good way of doing that, so we're just gonna have to deal with them. Like, I could stop there being railings, but then I feel it would look dangerous. I just wish I could angle this diagonally, sort of sit it down on top of the triangle, but just gonna have to deal with it. And focus on just covering up the underside of it. It makes it blend in a lot better than it did. And this is me trying to mess around with trying to get that one little bit of railing that clips through to not ideally, but can't find a better way of hiding it than there already is, so it's a pity that I can't remove the handrail from just one side. I mean, maybe there is a way of doing that and I just don't know about it, but yeah, I don't know. Experimenting a little bit with putting a bit of wall around here, but there's nothing that's particularly good for not ending up with a whole bunch more clipping errors. Issues is a good word I wanted to use. Now, it would be nice if these steps mirrored each other on either side of the door, so that you can sort of pick a direction to go up. But that's going to be a lot of work, so I'll be leaving that for a little bit. to go have a little play with path types over by the entrance. So I'm still not really sure what type of path I want to use. Like, what I really need at this end is a path that suits sort of a medieval fairy tale-y village. And like, maybe the path can change once we get to the route into the castle. I've decided to do the pathing inside the castle in the same way that I had for the path on the parapets, just to tie it all in nicely. I think that can come down to the edge of the bridge and then transition into something that's more suitable for the village. And the village needs some more windy road type bits, just to have little houses, little shops. Obviously this is the area I want to put some merch shops and then also some attractions into. So I really need to think about the layout of it. Because obviously it doesn't quite line up right, and that was my fault for messing with that initially. So somehow I need to fix those sightlines. I'm just going to have a little bit of a mess around with the default blueprints of various buildings, just to have a think about how I want to do this entryway. And I mean, equally, to think about how to build the various buildings. And just what kind of entryway I want. Because I know I want to build some kind of an arch over the entrance. The entrance itself does feel a little bit narrow, you know? But, I guess that's just default. Anyway, let's have a look at how some of these default blueprints are made. Like, what are the various bits made of? And how am I supposed to build one of these manually myself? I mean, I know I could use some of the default blueprints, but like, I kind of want to do it myself, you know? Even if doing something entirely custom is going to make it so much more work. There's some pretty epic default entrances, really. I quite like this one with all the hanging wisteria. I mean, so many of these blueprints with shops and things are so good, and yeah, I just really want to figure out how I want to build various buildings here. Anyway, that's going to be the end of it for this video. If you enjoyed watching this, please consider subscribing to my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter I post the stream schedule over on Twitter and also on the YouTube community page. So I hope to see you around. And with that, this is Kalla signing off. See ya! Bye bye!